Okay, so how'd that go? So just to be clear, this is the challenge is creating a method. I didn't even talk about calling it, but I suspect a couple of you may have tried that, which is fine, right? Which is actually good. So in this case, I would go over to here, and I would look at, I'm going to do house hold first, right? So I'm going to take this code here, right? I'm going to copy it without, like I said, without the set and without the return, okay? Because in here, and I'm going to call it household points, okay? And when I set this up, right, it's a method, okay? Does that look right? Yeah. This is where I would use my code editor, right, or my formatter to make that look a little better, to make sure I have it in there. Not never. What am I looking for? That's what I'm looking for. Still waking up. That's all right. Okay, so that looks a little better. So now let's think about what it needs, right? You might think, in this case, right, we had a default value. We're not going to use it this time. We could. But what is, right, number in household, right? So it'd be this dot household members would be number in household. And then this dot household points is a new value, okay? So, and remember, this is, right, what we're doing is a comparison. So one really nice thing about the editor, and if you haven't used this, I'm going to use my command. I think for Windows it's the window. And as I put my mouse on a variable, when I do D, Command D will select each one of them, right? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in one typing session here, update all of them to be, instead of number in house, I'm going to say house members. Now, actually I forgot. I'm going to arrow back this dot house members. See how easy that is. So I use Command D. Again, Windows D I think is the same thing, multi-line. And what's nice is that whatever variable you're on, we're going to do it again in a minute, so you'll see me do it. And then I'm going to hit Escape to get out of it. Escape again. So now I'm saying if whatever was passed in to create the new object, right? Now in this case, right, where household points is a new value. Now we're not, in this case, we're creating it based on the method, not up in the constructor. Now we could set it as 0 in here, but if we just do this, I'm going to do that same thing here, 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 and here, and here. I'm going to use my arrow key this time to go and put at the beginning this dot. Okay, hit Escape twice and it drops me out. Cool, right? So now, how do we test it? That's a great question. How do we test it? Well, if we come back to our main here, we're going to end up refactoring this, but I want to just kind of walk you through it this way. Because now that we have an object, how do we call a method, household points, on the object? And knowing that the object already has the values that we need for this method, how do we call it? Okay, we'd say fp object dot household points this way. Right? Now let's test it and see if it worked. Okay, if I come back here, let this run. We know this part. So I'm going to jump over and that's what this is step over. And now it takes me to the next line. So now I know on that prototype I have a new method, and so I'm calling that method. So now we want to step into this to see if there's any errors inside this method. So now this dot household is 3, which would make sense because we've already set it up. And now, right, that line's not running. Well, but when it's 3, now we're going to set this value, and then it drops out. So we could come back up to FP object. Do I still have the reference? I think I have to go back here, right? So FP object. And now I can see that I have that new household points on the actual object, the instantiated object based on my class. Yeah? Okay, let's do the next one. Just because I think it's good, we're here. So now let's think about how we do this one. Determine house size points. Again, I would take this, I'd copy it, I'd come down here, right? And this I'm going to call house size points. Okay. Yep. Oh, actually not the best. Yeah. Oh, why? Oh, that's because this. Yeah. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back here. That should be better. Yeah, that looks a little better, but still, notice how the if should. Yeah, it came over. It was all right. But this one looks farther over. Anyway, I'll play with that. I like things formatted well. I just do. They're easier to read. So now we have to think about, okay, house size points, okay, need size. So where does size come in? It's here. So then all we have to do here, right, again, D, again, every time I hit that, it's updating it. And now in this case, I'm going to type over the whole thing. So I'm just going to say this dot house size. I'm going to hit escape. Awesome. Awesome again. And I'm going to do the same thing here, where I go here. Uh-oh, Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D. I'm going to say in this case, I'm going to use my arrow keys because I want to go this dot. Yeah, learning how to use stuff like that just makes our lives so much better. Okay. Okay, so now that we have this, let's go over here. Right? And now that we're here, FB object dot, okay, house size points. Okay, so let's test it. Let's see how it went. All right, let's come back here, let it run. I should really put in something different. Okay, I'm going to jump over, step over that, and now I'm going to walk into this, step in, this dot house size, right, medium, should have added it. And by the way, the reason I can't do the object here is I don't have the context because this file is open. If I hit step, now I'm back to the main and I have access to that object. Okay, and I can look at it and I can go, yep, house size points is there, household points is there. It's interesting too, right, when you look at how these are listed, right? What do we notice about they're listed in alphabetical order, right? Interesting, right? This is going to come up later. And based on something Stephen mentioned to me that I did not consider about the way we're rendering, which, by the way, the code we're using right now is not what's rendering, right? We're still using start. So at this point, and this actually might become, I think, the challenge that we do for our discussion, is how do we now integrate this into the rest of our code, okay? Okay, so I think we'll stop here, and then I'll kind of consider if I'm going to do one more before we jump into the challenge. Oh yeah, commit this with any changes you needed to do. And if you didn't need, you all who have not needed to do changes have been good about this, but just tell me your code worked, and that'd be great. And if not, tell me you updated your code.